This was a story sent to me by one of my subscribers, and I vaguely remember frontman Fred Durst appearing on the Howard Stern show in 2002 to promote this contest. So back in 2001, it was announced that a key member of Limp Bizkit would be leaving the group, resulting in the band doing something pretty unorthodox to find his replacement. Things didn't go well, and that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Also, we're doing something really cool in today's video, so stay tuned till the very end, as a subscriber who suggested this story, Marcus, actually partook in the audition process in 2 of the cities and was nice enough to sit down with me to discuss his experience. Marcus, for his part, has a pretty interesting career being instrumental in the Guitar Hero video game franchise, recording a lot of the cover songs that you heard in the early Guitar Hero games, and he also worked on a pretty cool new VR game called Unplugged Air Guitar for the Oculus. They've got licensed music from Weezer, Ozzy, and many more artists, and legendary Steel Panther guitarist Satchel serves as your virtual mentor. The link to check out the game is down below. By 2001, Limp Bizkit were one of the biggest rock bands on the planet, as their first, second, and third albums were multi-platinum, and 2 of them went #1 on the Billboard charts. But the same year, founding member and guitarist Wes Borland would leave the group, telling MTV at the time, "I could have probably gone on and still played the part of the guitar player of Limp Bizkit, but musically I was kind of bored. If I was to continue, it would have been about the money and not about the true music, and I don't want to lie to myself, or to them, or to the fans of Limp Bizkit. I think I had a good run. I was with that band for 5 or 6 years, and we did a lot of really neat things, and I had a great time. I went there and did the whole fame and money thing, and it's just not as important as making the music that I want to make. It's just time to move on for me," he'd say. In the same interview, Borland would admit that his bandmates felt more like business associates or co-workers, making his gig in Limp Bizkit feel more like a job. Frontman Fred Durst would tell Howard Stern in early 2002 that Borland felt their entire genre of music was over, and that the guitarist always felt like an outsider, claiming he had his own dressing room. Borland would form the group Eat the Day with his brother, and coincidentally enough, hold open auditions to find a vocalist. Rather than finding a replacement for Borland through their friends or word of mouth, they teamed up with music store Guitar Center to launch a 22-city tour throughout the US to find a new guitarist as part of what they dubbed, and I quote, "Put your guitar where your mouth is" contest. Durst would tell Deseret News at the time, "This way we leave no stone left unturned. We had this idea to bring the band to the talent. It was a way to meet a lot of new people." Durst would also tell MTV what the band was looking for, saying, "We want to find someone who is hungry, someone we have chemistry with, someone who's cool to hang out with. It's like dating. They need to have something that when you meet them, it makes you curious enough to call for a second date." He also emphasized that Limp Bizkit were not looking for someone to replicate Borland's style, saying, "Wes is a legend in his own right. It's like if Led Zeppelin needed a guitar player, you don't get Jimmy Page because you can't. Wes is Wes. We don't have any idea what we're going to do with our next record, so our new guitar player has to bring something to the table. We are looking for a band member, not a hired gun." The contest, for its part, would run from January 10th, 2002 to February 11th. Here's an MTV report covering the contest.
Now that Wes Borland has left the band.
Hey, but you know how unpredictable Fred Durst is. I mean,
Very
you could
true.
never count him out. He's always had an interesting approach when it came to his career.
True.
And even now, he's going on tour to find a replacement for Wes. And you never know who it could be. It might be me, it might be you, or even might be a neighbor from next door.
But could it be me?
MTV would also report that those who wanted to bypass the audition process of going to Guitar Center and waiting in line for hours could instead upload a file of themselves playing on mp3.com, and if the playing caught the attention of someone in the band or their management, they would arrange for an audition. According to MTV, who reported on the contest, about 100 people on average attended the auditions, at least in the beginning of the tour, and were given 5 to 15 minutes to play for executives from Flawless Records, with prospective candidates coming back later in the evening to jam with bassist Sam Rivers and drummer John Otto, while vocalist Fred Durst watched and bobbed his head to the beat. Now, there's been some discrepancy over how much time people were actually allotted, as I've read some personal stories saying that was a much shorter period of time, which we'll talk about in a bit. MTV would also claim that if you were selected to come jam with the band, those could last anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. But as the contest went on, stories soon came out about how some fans and other media outlets started speculating about whether the whole thing was just a publicity stunt to keep the band's name in the media, largely because the contest came and went and nothing was announced. By the summer of 2002, MTV would report that Limp Bizkit were preparing to enter the studio with an unnamed producer, and apparently the fresh talent from the guitar contest wasn't good enough for the band. MTV would claim that the band jammed with at least 4 finalists, but none of them got callbacks. In fact, things started to leak from those who actually participated in the contest and how the whole thing seemed like a publicity stunt. One of the contestants would write about his experience online, which is picked up by Blabbermouth, and they would reveal some pretty shocking things. All the contestants who took part in the contest had to sign a 3-page form that basically stated that you couldn't do any guitar solos during the audition, you couldn't play any cover songs, including any Limp Bizkit songs, so you're basically playing something you came up with, which didn't sit well with a lot of people. And on top of that, any guitar riffs or ideas that contestants came up with during the audition could be used by Limp Bizkit, and they would not be required to pay compensation, and basically anything you play would become the property of Limp Bizkit. The agreement also stated that the contestants' images could be used in the forthcoming documentary without compensation. The contestant who wrote about his experience at Blabbermouth Picked Up described in painstaking detail how the whole audition seemed like a scam from the beginning. After waiting nearly 8 hours to get into the audition and being made to sign the ridiculous contract, he would go on to describe the actual audition saying, "Entering the room, there's one guy, he's got a mute button under his foot. His job is to make sure you follow the rules. If you break any, you get muted and kicked out immediately. So I go in and there's one amp for me to plug into, and the settings were all turned to mud. It sounded awful and was not pleasing to the ears, and it was loud enough that the awfulness didn't go away for some time. Then comes in the fun part. You have 60 seconds to play starting now." After the audition, the contestant said he was told to go wait outside in the parking lot with about 200 other people. The contestants were then told that the band will announce in the evening who will come back to jam with them. And tired and hungry, the contestants were waiting in the parking lot and were told that they would get some pizza for dinner. Then 2 large pizzas showed up to feed about 200 people, and the people were visibly upset. Then the fun part happens. The contestant would claim that the people in charge of the contest came out with a megaphone to the parking lot and told the waiting contestants, and I quote, "This competition has been called off effective immediately and will not be rescheduled. The band will not be performing with nor for anyone. They will not be signing autographs. This is beyond our control, but please exit the area immediately." 2 armed police officers along with backup would be brought in to disperse the crowd, and the contestants of course weren't very happy, and they weren't the only ones, as the radio stations who sponsored the contest brought out their broadcast booths to cover the event, leaving them in an awkward position. The applicant would write in his experience, "FM 99 is having a field day with it. They're referring to this as the F. Fred Durst Friday, taking calls from people who went, but unless you've read this carefully, I don't think you understand what happened." He would go on to say Limp Bizkit now has over 200 guitar parts written by various artists around here which are unowned and not copyrighted. Limp Bizkit now owns these riffs. Limp Bizkit just stole 200 pieces of material right out under these guitarists' nose, myself included. If I played something off our CD, I would be absolutely pissed. I am absolutely pissed. They have completely ripped off hundreds of people and they're getting away with it because they can, he would say. The whole experience was written as a warning sign to other Limp Bizkit fans who were interested in trying out. Then in the middle of February of 2002, Entertainment Weekly published an article about the end of the contest, revealing that the band chose no one to replace Wes Borland, getting about 5,000 entries, with about 30 of them invited to jam with the band. As you can tell, there's a bit of discrepancy between what MTV reported and what Entertainment Weekly reported. In fact, there's a video on YouTube, if you guys are interested, of one guy who was actually asked to jam with the band, and he recorded his jam session. The Entertainment Weekly article did say that some of those who did get callbacks may get their own recording deal with Fred Durst's label Flawless. The article would go on to say many musicians report feeling shortchanged by the experience of waiting hours in line and signing a release to allow their images to be used in a documentary, only to play for less than a minute. But the band says it never guaranteed that it would ultimately hire someone it discovered on tour. On LimpBizkit.com, frontman Fred Durst writes, "Anyone who is mad about their experience trying out for Limp Bizkit simply and plainly 100% sucked." In the same write-up, Durst assured auditioners that despite the documentary plans, he wasn't going to steal anyone's musical ideas, saying in no way whatsoever would Limp Bizkit even steal or take anything, music or riffs, from anyone on this planet. And remember, the only person who watches a thief is a thief. Then by May of 2002, MTV News was reporting that Fred Durst was now begging Wes Borland to rejoin the band, going as far as giving out his email address to fans to have them message him asking him to rejoin. At first, Borland claimed that he was shocked by the move, but was also curious to see what fans would say, telling MTV he had received hundreds of emails, saying, and I quote, 75% or more of all the emails pleaded for me not to return. Thank you for all the support. You again have let me know that you agree with my decision. Limp Bizkit would end up hiring ex-Not Axeman Mike Smith to join the group, and in 2003 the band would release their fourth record, Results May Vary. The album went platinum but sold only about 15% of its predecessor, and was their last album for nearly 8 years. Borland, for his part, would rejoin the band the following year in 2004.
Yeah, man. So I'd been a internationally ignored musician in the Bay Area. I've been a guitar player basically for my entire life, and um, basically leveling up with local bands, doing some tours. I toured Europe a couple of times. But at this point in 2002, I was still, I mean, the highest that I'd achieved really was like my indie band signed like a small record deal. But nothing big yet, nothing to really talk about. So, I mean, this was, I saw, to audition for Limp Bizkit, I saw this was a legitimate like opportunity to, I mean, even if I wasn't going to get the gig or whatever, I thought, hey, this is a good chip to, it's something at the very least I can talk to, a internet TV show about, 20 something years later. So yeah, I mean, it worked out, I guess. No, man. So here's the thing, like, I was never a fan of this band at all, but like any young guitar player in California or, ostensibly the United States, I was completely filled with raw confidence and hubris to the point where I thought I could legitimately at least pull it off. So when I heard the radio station ads in the Bay Area that said Limp Bizkit was searching for a new guitar player and Fred Durst needs the illest and dopest guitar player in the country, I thought like, all right, so I'm fairly ill, right? Maybe not the illest, but maybe ill enough to get into the conversation. So it really wasn't about joining Limp Bizkit because I was like the biggest fan. This was just really something to do because I was bored. So they had one of the auditions at a Guitar Center in San Francisco, but it closed off super quick because apparently everybody with a guitar was ready to abandon their own band for this. And at the time, there were posts on Craigslist music boards because this is before Discord, really. This is before like everybody had cell phones, basically, right? Like, people couldn't live stream this shit in real time and show it off. So you had to go on like Craigslist music boards, and there were like these cautionary tales about like when you got in there, the first thing you did was you signed away your rights on this really dubious, contract. And then you were led into this like little room with a completely blown amp that was like dimed out control wise, like everything was on 10. And, yeah, I mean, but at the time, like the only like real time flow of information you got from other musicians was if you hit like a music board or something. Like you'd find like a central hub, like you'd go to Craigslist and click on musicians, and instead of like, selling my PV amp, it would be like, do not fall for the GC Limp Bizkit scam, and here's my story. And I mean, it's Schadenfreude too, but it's also like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Like I'm still not, I'm not dissuaded from the potential good time that could come from this. So after they closed the one in SF super quickly, they said that they were going to do one in Hollywood. And I was like, I don't care, man. I'm driving to Hollywood. I got to see what happens, right? Just to see what happens. Cause, it's a shit show to the other magnitude. And like my buddy Nick and we threw our guitars and skateboards in this like old rental van. We drove down to Hollywood from the Bay Area to do two things. Basically go skate Venice and try out for Limp Bizkit, right? So naturally, basically we stayed up super late the night before going crazy. And I ended up shitting my pants on the drive over from Malibu. So we finally got on Guitar Center like at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and as we pull up, I'm checking out the competition, right? I'm just seeing this sea of humanity, and it's like this line to nowhere, and I'm just like every crazy character from like a Hollywood casting agency is there and glorious, man. Like my three favorite dudes that I remember. And who totally should have gotten the gig, right? Was this completely unhinged, like 66-year-old dude with a nylon string guitar, just belting out Beatles tunes in line. There was an entire band dressed like Kiss in line, an entire band, right? And these two shred bros that decided it was a good idea to push these two gigantic like guitar rack systems on the sideways. And it was like, it looked cool. but I mean, how are you going to plug it in? Like, what are you going to spend 20 minutes plugging it in? So this line had a little bit of everything. And so we get to the very back of the line, like 3 blocks up around the neighborhood behind Guitar Center. And it's like this miniature shanty town develops, right? Guys are walking along selling weed. Other dudes were like losing their place in line because they had to go take a leak. And I mean, there's like no structure that I can tell. And the line wasn't moving like at all. So after about 3 or 4 hours of just standing there, you know, like literally burning in the LA sun, some asshole comes out with a bullhorn and he's like, contest is closed for the day. That's it. Losers go home. And now everybody starts getting super pissed and yelling at the bullhorn guy. Like, bullhorn guy hears you. Bullhorn guy don't care, right? So after I watch a fight break out at the front of the line, I decided there had to be a better way. So I went and found a payphone, and I called the company that handled Limp Bizkit at the time, which was a management company called The Firm. And I told some guy, like maybe he was probably an intern or something, that I was the manager for Marcus Henderson and that he's in town to meet with the band to do a private audition. And I mean, that's just like rock instincts. You can't like teach that. So I asked him like what it's going to take to get him, you know, me in for an audition. And he says, I got to be honest with you. It's not an audition at all. This is just a publicity stunt for Guitar Center to sell like hopes and guitar strings maybe. And it totally confirmed what we all kind of knew anyway. So by that time, like the line had kind of dispersed and people kind of like filtered off. So I never actually got in. I never got a chance to even play one note for Limp Bizkit. Now, had I gotten a chance to play, I'll be honest with you guys, I had no plan. Like, I usually try to have some sort of musical statement or some sort of signature thing that I can pull out of my and apply in context, and that's gotten me a ton of gigs before. But I swear to God, I had absolutely nothing. Like, no inspiration at all. No riffs, no licks, no cover bites, no nothing. And so, yeah, after 3 hours in line, by the way, I realized that I didn't even bring a guitar strap with me. Like, it wasn't even in my case for some reason. So, I mean, I think by that merit alone, I think I kind of might have gotten the gig. Like, I came in thoroughly unprepared with absolutely no musical context or plan at all. And like in hindsight, I guess maybe that was the idea. Like maybe everyone there actually was trying too hard and really being musical and everything. And that had absolutely no place in that guitar center that day. No, because like I really didn't think that far ahead, to be honest with you. It wasn't like I was aware that you couldn't. I was aware of the basic rules. Like you couldn't play Limp Bizkit songs. You really couldn't launch into Eruption. So you're basically in there funneling original licks to these guys, and they're harvesting all of this material in one way or the other. Because I mean, basically, what happened was that their illest musician left the band due to extreme embarrassment. Wes Borland, God bless him, an amazing performer, totally underrated guitar player. But he left the band, and with him, he took all those ill-ass riffs. So this entire thing turned out to be just a gigantic scam to get guitar players to hand over original riffs, which the band would then sift through, learn, and then apply to future songs ostensibly. I don't even know if that was how it shook out, because the next album that they put was called Results May Vary, if I remember correctly. And they brought in Mikey Doling from Snot. And Mikey's a killer player. Like Mikey is I never heard the album. Like like every other Limp Bizkit album, I didn't listen to it. But I know Mikey. Mikey's a great guitar player, and he's a hell of a performer. So I just honestly, I think that, it all would have changed everything if Limp Bizkit would have went with that crazy guy with the 5-string guitar in line. Like, that would have made Limp Bizkit in 2.0 that much better. So they totally blew it, man. They just wanted to kind of sweep that under the rug as quickly as possible. We're so lucky. I mean, God, had we lived in the TikTok era 20 years ago when this was going on, I mean, it would have been just so glorious to watch. But you know what? I mean, they just don't make them like this anymore. And it makes for a great rock and roll true story, that I tell you, man. I mean, they never really, I mean, I think Wes eventually came back to the band, and I kind of like what they're doing with dad rock. As a dad, I'm into it. But you know, like I still say, man, they should have just went with that Kiss cover band or the guys that pushed those 2 giant fucking rack systems along the way. You never know. They never got a chance to play. Who knows how good they could have been. The fact that they're trying, they're getting after it. People are obviously entertained. I mean, I was watching some live footage from their shows last year, and there's 1 million people there. So I mean, they're as long as, you know, keeps rock and roll alive and people are having a good time, and you know, there are obviously worse things on the planet now 20 years later, you know. And Limp Bizkit, you know, God bless their little hearts, they're still after it, and Wes is still painting his face, and you know, it's a good thing.
That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again, Rock and Roll True Stories.